2016 Canadian Masters here from the Wolfville Curling Club. It's Thursday morning and things are winding down here as we approach the playoffs and the finals on the weekend. This morning's game we have Team Yukon and Team PEI. Team Yukon skipped by Ellen Johnson and Team PEI skipped by Sandy Hope. First rock's already underway. The ladies are anxious this morning to get at it. Team PEI up first. Team Yukon winning the draw to the button. Lead for PEI's Arleen Harris. Charlottetown PEI. PEI team curls out of the Cornwall Curling Club. Team Yukon. Whitehorse Curling Club. Lead, Elaine Sumner. Elaine throwing with a stick. Sticks are a legitimate way to play the game here at the Masters. Keeping everybody in the game. They're a great innovation of a few years back and certainly kept a lot of people in the game. Brought a lot of people back to the game at club level. Both teams struggle a little bit here in the round robin, but competition's pretty darn tough here. I did my first game yesterday and was very surprised at the level of curling for sure. PI lost the last three games by I think a total of 4 points though, so obviously been in games, just haven't been able to quite finish them off. Good looking shot here by PEI lead. Little hit, little tap, rolling in the corner. Good shot. Bill Alliance thrilled to be here at the Masters this weekend, actually all week, in Digby a couple weeks ago, and now in Kentville, Wolfville. Games going on at both Kentville and Wolfville. I think Rick Bichon's got the call this morning from the Glooscap Curling in Kentville. Rick's is actually a competitor here for Team Ontario. I think they're 6-1. They're on to the playoffs. And a little come around by the Team Yukon, and great looking shot. And it buries in there nicely. Debbie Rhodenhizer now up for PEI. Being asked to remove the blue stone, I believe. It's going to be a tough shot. Not very much ice. Not sure she can get by with that ice, but we'll see. Threw it just a smidge wide. That might help. Ladies on it early. Not a whole lot of weight, but probably the weight she would have thought she should throw for that shot. Not plan A, but not a bad plan B. Moves the red one in a little closer to the rings. Red blue sitting one, but red now having a couple of rocks in the house. Yukon skip Ellen Johnson. We'll ask her second stone. We got to try to get the lineup a little bit straight here. We have a little different lineup posted than what we see out here on the ice, so I'm not quite sure who's who. Haven't been here long enough to sort everybody out yet. The out-turn draw. Ice here has been terrific in Wolfville. As I said, did a game yesterday, talked to a lot of players, and the ice has just been very, very good. Tony Sterling doing the ice here in Wolfville. So not a bad shot in the rings. Might come into play a little later on. So same call for Team PEI, the in-turn takeout. Probably a little bit more weight than the first shot. Starting to go on a little bit. This looks like a good shot coming here for Rhodenhizer. Terrific shot. So PEI sitting three without the hammer. Always seems to be the way in the first end. When you get a lot of rocks in play, you're usually the team without the hammer. I don't know how it works that way. So Valerie Whalen will now be asked to remove the PEI counter. This one's not a lot of weight on this one. Ladies working hard. Need to go real hard. Need to hold this one. Maybe a little rub. No, almost. A little opportunity there. If they'd come off that just for a half a second, they might have got a little rub off the high one, but instead hits and rolls out. Doesn't remove the red stone. PEI will draw to sit 4 now. Getting a little messy for the U team from the Yukon. It's nice to have hammer, but nice not to have to face 3 or 4 or 5 on the last shot in the first end as well. So hopefully they'll clean it up a little bit. PEI third, Shelley Ebbett. A lot of the ladies on this PEI team have a wealth of experience at the national level in mainly senior curling and masters curling, but a little bit of mixed curling as well. We'll go through that a little bit as we move on through the day here. So a little light, but a pretty good shot. Guards the 2 rocks in the back. So big draw here now for the Yukon. Need to make this one. You do have an opportunity. You have backing, and you have a little guard in the front of the 12-foot. If you can ever make this one curl in here, you'll be in not too bad a shape. Looks pretty good. I think I might sweep it a little bit. Make sure it gets to that back one. Ah, didn't need it. Great shot. Big shot by the Yukon third. So all of a sudden, a whole lot of heat's off on the team from Yukon. PEI will try to pick that out, and it's probably makeable, but it's going to take a great shot. Ladies working hard, good sweepers out there. So the other thing we've noticed the last day and a half that have been here is that the physical fitness of a lot of these players is pretty remarkable, considering they're not all 25 years old anymore. So great shot. Another great shot. 2 back-to-back terrific shots. Team PEI sitting 1. And Yukon third, Evan, I hesitate to tackle this name. Pozichnik, I think. I'm probably not even close. If you want to get a hold of us on Twitter and tell me how I'm supposed to say that word, feel free to do so. Get me at ACC Super 55. So if somebody at home has gotten up early to watch the game and doesn't like the way I'm pronouncing Ev's name, please feel free to track me down. A little short. But the end for the Yukon looks a lot better since Ev started throwing, actually. And PEI sitting 1, but for a while they were sitting many. And a couple of options yet. You do have a couple of blue stones that are able to be raised up. Actually, the one on the left-hand side, as we look at it, could be to sit 2 as well, so even better. This game is in what we call the seeding pool. Teams that finish in the top 4 in each division, there's 2 divisions, moved on to the championship pool, and everyone else went to the seeding pool, playing for pride and position, I suppose, for the next year. Haven't quite figured out what the benefit of that is. As far as the position goes, had the same thing for the seniors in Digby. I really wasn't quite sure, but I'm sure it has some merit. But you always want to win. Everybody out here is a competitor, and they're here to have a good time and enjoy the curling. But they also are here to win, regardless of your record. A little bit heavy. PEI skips Sandy Hope. Just slid to the back of the 12-foot. Yukon looking at playing that same come around. Not a bad call. As I said, you do have an opportunity to play the raise on the other side, but I think I would save that for my last one. Because if you take a run at it and don't make it, you could actually open up your blue one at the back, and you don't want to do that right now. Games all day today at the Masters. We have curling at 10, 2, and 7 from both curling clubs. If you're looking to check out the other action, you can certainly do so on our other feed. Doing one game from Kentville, one game from Wolfville this week. And a great place to spend the day. I think day passes are $5, so you can see 3 games for $5. That's about 6 hours entertainment. Probably can't beat that. Ellen Johnson also throwing with a stick. And if you think that's easy, just try it. I have a little injury, and I've been throwing with a stick for the last 4 weeks, and I thought I'd be better than that. Let me put it that way. This looks really good. Needs to curl a little tiny bit more. Wow, what a shot. That is a great shot for your first shot of the game. Skip Ellen Johnson, Team Yukon. So you mentioned Yukon struggling a little bit this week, but you wouldn't have known it from that shot. So PEI will look to follow that down, and if she can follow that down and just move it back a foot, she would sit 2, which would be a very good shot. A little bit short's not a bad thing. It takes that draw away and does force the Yukon to the other side, which may or may not be a bad thing, actually, for either team. Sometimes you get forced into a shot you don't want to play, and all of a sudden you realize that if you make that shot, it's for multiple points. Big game going on beside us here. Steve Ogden's Nova Scotia men's team sitting at 2 and 3, taking on Prince Edward Island, I believe. Yeah, or maybe not. Yeah, not sure. But anyway, Steve needs to win that game to move on to the play. Was it Northern Ontario? Sorry about that. Kind of the same green, but not really all that close, I guess. Steve does need to win that game to move on to the championship round. Ogden, I would think, would be one of the teams considered to be a bit of a favorite. Wow, what a shot we have here. These skips are just come to play today. That's a terrific shot. That's a super good shot. As good a shot Ellen's was, that was even just that little bit better. So all of a sudden, when you thought you might be going to have a chance at 2 or 3, you're going to have to make a heck of a shot just to score here for Team Yukon. Just checking to see how much you can see. Should see more from that end than she's going to be able to see from this end, I can tell you that. See about half the rock. We're sitting right behind the sheet. Probably half to 3/4. The problem with this is that it's going to be really hard to score. You can probably eliminate that red rock, but I'm not sure you can save the shooter in a position that you're actually going to score. So I think my preference would be move to the other side of the sheet and play the angle raise on the blue one. I think it's a much easier shot. Thanks for that, Scott. That's the overhead right there, and you can see a really good situation for a PEI and not so much for the team from the Yukon. And I don't think she can get shot rock with this. I'm pretty confident that she can't. So I don't know if I can't get shot rock. I'm not sure I'm not moving to the other side. But anyway, here it comes. I'll be looking at least cut them down to 1 here. It's a nice looking weight, just a little bit out there. It is a little bit of a challenge to judge the weight with the stick sometimes when you're trying to throw those in-between shots. And this one's going to hang out and slide on by. PEI is going to jump out to a 2-0 lead, stealing 2 here at the first end. In the first end at the 2016 Kings County Masters. Nice effort. A lot of good shots in that end by 2 teams. As I mentioned, the records aren't indicating how well they can play, obviously, because that was a terrific end. Two men's and 2 ladies games here at the Wolfville Club this morning. Ladies games are all the seeding round games, and the men's games are just finishing up the round robin, actually. We'll try to keep you up to date on at least the Nova Scotia game. Steve Ogden in a little trouble here. Makes a great shot on his last one to score one. Looking at a couple, had to make the double. Hits and stays and takes a 1-0 lead after one end. So PEI, after scoring 2 in the first end, without the hammer in the second end. Asking lead Arleen Harris to throw one tight guard, maybe. Whoa. Wow. So, I obviously didn't have good eyes on that sheet, on that game on sheet 2. That double that Steve Ogden just made was actually for 4 and not 1. Thanks to the crowd here for letting me know that. So, big shot by Steve Ogden in the first end, taking a commanding lead. And I understand, talking with Peter Neely before this game, this team from Northern Ontario actually lost the final last year. So, solid curling team. Game's not obviously over yet, but it will be feeling a little better for the team from Nova Scotia here. Yukon playing the intern come around. And not going to quite get there. In the house. PI will no doubt play the takeout. See, Skip Sandy Hope indicating the weight. The little pad on the elbow is just a weight indication. All the teams use some sort of weight indication, and it gets a little loud at these events, so you usually have to signal that with your hands rather than trying to holler down the ice. So PI looking to remove the Yukon stone at the top of the 12-foot. Way is out there a little bit, but should curl. And I think this is going to be fine. Might roll out, but certainly going to remove the stone. She gets it. Sandy will work a little bit to get it out the back, but no problems. And a good shot for Arleen Harris. Arleen has 7 Canadian seniors under her belt, and along with 1 Canadian Masters last year. So, good curler, obviously. Coming into a prime here and have all kinds of championships in the last 11 years, 10, 11 years. Yukon playing the same shot again. Just getting out there a little bit. And a tired light again. Going to end up pretty much in the same spot it did. Maybe a few inches further in. And ends up in the 8-foot. Good shots, but pretty easy to remove for the team from PEI. So just need to find a way to either get on the broom or take a little less ice there and get a little better coverage out of it. Second stone, Debbie Rhodenhizer. And the intern takeout. No trouble. This PEI team seems to hit pretty well. So you're definitely gonna have to do something a little more with the rocks than just get them in the house. But it's nice to have draw weight that early, and the Yukon squad seems to at least have that. And I'm sure that once they get the ice all figured out here, you'll see them get behind some of these guards. So we're on the other side, going to be an out-turn hit for the Yukon. Like to hit and roll behind the one in the 12-foot if you could. Valley Whalen in the hack. That looks pretty tight. She might have to resort to a plan B here. Stays a little bit straight with the weight, but still going to curl up and hit the front one, I think. Not a bad thing. So certainly not the shot they played, but not a bad spot at all, actually. It's a lot of teams would have actually hit that top one. So not a bad end result. PI now look to remove the blue one. Girls working hard. There's a possible jam here if this one curls a little bit too far. It's really close to jamming. And there it is. So, things certainly turn around in 2 shots, considering the Yukon sort of had a miss, but managed to turn it into a positive here, and all of a sudden they're drawing to sit 2. big shot, good opportunity. It's, as we would call, a sort of a standard. I hesitate to use the word simple deuce, but at least a deuce that's there if you can make 4 or 5 shots in a row. But you got to start with this one. Outturn draw will look preferably be even with the other rock, but I think it's pretty heavy. Looks like it's probably going to be out the back. Sweeper's just backing off. That's never a good sign, no matter what level of curling you're at, when your sweepers are already on the way down back down the sheet, and your rock hasn't stopped yet. So that's not a good thing. And it's through the back. Guess they had a great time last night. They had a Kaylee here at, not here at the curling club, but in Kentville, I believe. And a packed house, and everybody had a wonderful time, lots of entertainment. Everybody learned to Highland dance, or attempt to learn to Highland dance, and have a lot of good food, no doubt. South turn takeout. This one's curling hard as well. She may miss this. Oh, just by a hair. It just slides by. So a second opportunity now for the Yukon to split the house. Sit 2. Try to set up their deuce. Still 4 rocks to come. So there's lots of time both to get the deuce and to get out of giving up the deuce if you can make a double somewhere along the way. Big shot here. Out turn. Teams, I've noticed yesterday and again today, the teams haven't had a lot of trouble with draw weight, generally speaking, which would tell me that the curling club and that in both Kentville and here in Wolfville are very similar for speed. No big surprise there. I think that Tony makes ice at both clubs, or at least would have certainly been involved with the process. So that's always nice. It's really hard to play in a club if the speed's not close to the same. Terrific shot there, a real good spot. You can tell those 2 rocks are 2, 4, 5, probably 5.5 feet apart. So it doubles challenge at the best of time, and they're also pretty flat. So no double really here for these girls. Are maybe at the men's world's going on right now. Somebody could throw it hard enough to make that, but I'm not sure anybody here could, or anybody other than those teams could. So this one's an in-turn hit on the way. She will try to roll towards the blue one, though. You'd like to get them close together so that you might have an easier chance at a double later on. And that's a great shot. Terrific shot. PI now shot rock, so Yukon will have to make a play on it. And again, she would like to hit it and roll back towards where her previous rock was. But for starters, let's remove it and let's stay. That's kind of your plan here. First plan, remove it. Second plan, stay. And thirdly, make that roll over to the open side. It's on its way. Girls play fast, and one thing that for sure, we're not wasting a lot of time. The time clock man is right beside me up here, and I don't think he's going to be under too much stress in this one. This one's curling too much, though, and it's going to slide by. Can't really afford those misses. Certainly at this level, you're not going to get, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities to get 2s or 3s. So a little bit of a missed opportunity for the Yukon here, as we're pretty late in the end, and if you could make that hit and make a little roll, you were in pretty good shape to get 2. But now they're probably going to be throwing against 2 or 3 on the last one. Again, never fun. But that's why you're the skip. That's why they pay you nothing to do that job usually. Sandy Hope going to play the out-turn takeout. A little bit of a new piece of ice here, I think. I don't think we've been out here, so you got to make sure that you keep the weight. We missed a couple shots here, I guess, already, but you just don't seem to be quite getting out there. The girl's working real hard on this one. Good sweepers. I think she's going to be on her own, though. Might get both of them. Nope. So Yukon being handed several opportunities to set up the 2 here. Can't really hope to have that many normally, so you got to definitely take advantage. Make this draw and let Sandy play her takeout on her last one and make your shot for 2. Sounds easy. Never quite as easy as it sounds. PI team just not getting go to the broom over there. We noticed last night a couple spots that the teams that were playing just had a hard time getting quite out there. We had BC and I don't know who now, but anyway, it was a terrific game. It's a great game, really, really good curling game. Tons of good shots. BC losing that one. Both teams are already in the playoffs, so it wasn't a big problem there. So Ellen Johnson now from the Yukon in her fourth straight Canadian Masters Curling Championship. This one looks pretty good. Girls are still cleaning it. Be a little careful here. It's probably going to slide pretty good in the middle of the sheet. Should be okay, but like to be even, and it's pretty close. That's a great shot. Nice draw weight for Ellen Johnson. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks. Good thing you're here. So, just informed here that it was BC Manitoba last night. I guess I'm about the same age as a lot of the players out here, but my memory's not as good as theirs, I guess. So, it's good to know that. That really was a good curling game. That was the first game. I just arrived yesterday afternoon and did that game at 2 o'clock and with Edie Lloyd, and a terrific curling game. So many good shots. I was super impressed. So PI skips Sandy Hope now, facing 2. Really all you can do here is just remove this one. Make sure that you do remove it. Don't fool around with the weight. Get it down here. Make sure the blue one goes away. Allow Ellen to play her draw for 2. Sandy threw this a little in-out. You can notice she slid a little bit on the center line. Had to kind of move it back out to the broom. I think she's going to be okay, though. Starting to curl a little bit now. And no problem. Does roll out, though. So it gives Ellen Johnson the exact same shot she just played for 2 and to tie this game up. Very long week for these teams. As we mentioned, it's not, nobody's super young anymore in this, even no matter how good shape you're in. You're playing 9, 10 games, maybe more if you make the playoff round, and depending on where you are. And it's that's a lot of games in a week, and some of these players actually came directly from the seniors. Certainly a Lukowicz team came. Diane Foster of the team from BC came. I'm not sure who else, but there are some players that came directly from the seniors, so they're going to play about 20 to 25 games of curling in about a 2.5 week period. That's a lot of games. A lot of people don't play 25 games in a year. So Ellen's got this one on the way. Speed looks pretty good. Certainly don't need to sweep it, I don't think, but just keep it clean as it comes into the house. And Ellen Johnson, good handle on the draw weight. Basically threw the exact same shot twice. That's what the skips are supposed to be able to do. But she did it, and we have a 2-2 tie after 2 here at the 2016 Canadian Masters in our game between PEI and the Yukon. If you're looking to come down and take in a game today, as I mentioned, there are games in both curling clubs. The Glooscap Club in Kentville and here at the Wolfville Club in Wolfville. Girls are having lunch. I can smell lunch cooking. So if you're in the area and want to come down and buy yourself a little snack between games, that works too. Get your seats for the afternoon draw, 2 o'clock. I'll be moving over to the Glooscap Club for the Glooscap Club for the afternoon draw as soon as I get it out. So the Yukon now have a good game here, a tie game. Pretty evenly matched teams. And the guard goes up for the team from the Yukon. So PI going to ignore the center guard. Some teams might come around that one, but they're going to go open side. Playing the intern. Nice slide. Great slide by Arleen Harris. Girls working on this one. And they'll get it in. I would think you'd want to take this back up to the tee line or so, and that's where it's going to end up. So, good shot. 4 out of 4 on that one. Yukon, being very aggressive here. Just going to ignore that biter, or not biter, but full 12-foot stone and just come around the center guard. She says, well, we're here. We're going to play. Very, very aggressive call. It's not many teams would play this one, so I admire their gall in doing so, and obviously they're comfortable with it. Those are the sorts of things that teams have to be comfortable with, because you need to know if you're going to play the high-risk kind of game, which this would be, that there's some great rewards, but there's some downfalls as well. So as long as everybody's buying into it and comfortable with it, that's what they'll do. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to do a little more preparation for this thing. Okay, so if you were thinking of coming down here and watch a 2 o'clock game this afternoon at the Wolfville Curling Club, that wouldn't be a good idea, since there are no games here this afternoon at 2. Kentville does have 3 draws. That's confirmed at 10, 2, and 7, but only 10 and 7 here today. But Kentville, good news is Kentville and Wolfville Curling Clubs really aren't very far apart, so you can certainly nip over to Kentville to watch that game. And hopefully I'm going to bring my buddy with me here to keep me straight this afternoon over at the other club. So once again, the Yukon going to ignore the 2 counters that PEI has in the house and come right around the center guard. A little shake in the screen here, but might be a technical thing that Scott will look after and fix up for us. Or maybe it's just on mine, hopefully. So the intern come around. Line looks great. Ladies just watching it, not backing away, so the weight's got to be fairly close. We want to make sure this one buries, even if it goes deep. So great shot. So the Yukon squad says we're going to stay with this. And they do. They end up with shot rock at the back, biting the back of the forefoot. PI now going to peel the guard off and say, well, we can peel this off, and if you can make perfect guards till the end, you may well score one. But if you don't, we're going to get an opportunity to maybe get 2 or 3. PEI, second Debbie Rhodenhizer. Throwing the peel. Good shot. Great shot. Oh, might jam, though. And it does. So now, all of a sudden, Yukon sitting 2. Quite a change around in this end. And a chance probably to come around or guard. You'll be one or the other. So Ellen decides she's going to throw the guard. They played this intern pretty much the whole way, so why not stay with what you have and what you know? And it looks like a lot of ice, but just because when you throw that guard, the rock's not going to travel quite as far. It doesn't have quite as much time to move across the sheet. Certainly don't want to be wide on this one. Good slide, good release, but I don't know that this one's going to get over far enough, really. We'll see. Coming down here on the intern. It'll start to curl when it gets to about the hog line. Might be a little heavy, and we got a little bit of a plan B thing going on, and actually, had they been able to think about getting on that even quicker, they might have actually went right through the hole. But she has a guard. She ends up bumping the PEI stone over to actually guard theirs in the back of the 4. So Ellen certainly had that figured out. She knew she was going to have to go to a plan B and did it perfectly. Sandy now looking at whether or not she can make the double. So a couple of options there. They were looking at, they could play a few, there's a few shots here. You could play the intern come around, right around your red one to the top of the 4, maybe even the T line. Could play the double on the outside, or you can just play the outturn come around to the blue one. And she's chosen the outturn come around. Basically a freeze. Rose working hard again. Only played 3 ends, and the sweepers are going to be worn out here. But this looks great if she can get it by. And she does. So Debbie Rhodenhizer knew what she wanted to play, and a great shot. Once again, it's these teams are taking away the advantage pretty quickly. They've missed a couple easy ones along the way, but whenever they've been in trouble, both teams have been able to make the good shot to get themselves into a better position. Just looking over here, Northern Ontario did pick up 1 against Ogden's Nova Scotia team in the second, so Nova Scotia leads 4-1 in that game. Game they need to win to make the playoff round, make the championship round. That's certainly where they want to be. So they have been playing well. They've just been getting beat by better teams that have played better, so that happens sometimes. Sometimes you win games, you wonder how you won them. Sometimes you lose games, you wonder how you lost them. So just a hair heavy for the Yukon. Does come down and move it back a little bit. Does free up the red one a little, but gives PEI the opportunity to sit 2 here. So third, Shelley Ebbett. Shelley has a Canadian Mixed Curling Championship in her portfolio as well. In 2009, went to the Canadian Mixed. This one's starting to go. Curling hard. Curling very hard, actually. Might be hard pressed to stay. Should hit it. Might get them both. Yeah. So it does remove the Yukon stone, but does leave them the opportunity to be able to play the. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised to see them play the freeze. Most teams would actually hit the red one here, I think. Sit 3. That's probably what I do. But they've played the draws consistently and played them well, so stick with your game plan. If that's your game plan, stick with it. You don't want to be bouncing back and forth. That's when it gets difficult. This one might need to be swept a little bit. Starting to go pretty good. Not a lot of handle on it. Need to get it by, and that's no problem. Just the line's going to be a little off. So a little bit of a communication issue there. Usually that shot can be made if the sweepers let you know that that it's just that little bit heavy. They certainly could have swept that and managed to come to the red stone, which would have been obviously better. But that happens sometimes too. You don't quite know and you're not really sure what you want to say, and as a result, you end up with a little bit of a miss on a shot that really was pretty well thrown. So Shelley Ebbett, third for Team PEI, delivering the intern top 4-foot would be the plan here. This one looks a little bit heavy as well. Like definitely come to her own, but I don't think it's going to remove it. That's close. Nope. So pretty good shot. Behind the tee line, that's the problem with this one. And we've seen Ellen Johnson make a lot of good draws so far, including 2 in the last end. So if she can find that weight, she can take this end away from PEI and make it pretty difficult for them to score. Got to throw a good shot, though. Johnson just looking for T-line on this one. It's a big shot for the sweepers. They need to really make this shot for you. As long as you're close. Need to make sure they don't oversweep. They can't undersweep. A lot of pressure on sweepers. That's why I just chose not to ever sweep. This looks like a great shot. If it curls a little bit more, wow, what a shot. Great shot by Ellen Johnson. Just about as good as you can make it. I suppose if you wanted to say what would be perfect, 1 foot lighter, but heck, 1 foot's not very much. That's a terrific curling shot. PI now can probably pick it out, but it's not going to be easy, and she's not even going to try, I don't think. Looks like she's going to take the ice to just come down and move it back again. She can get shot rocked just by moving the blue one back a little tiny bit. Sandy Hope, who's also made some big shots here already in this game. We're only in the third end. Being asked to make another one. Might still be able to actually make her 2, maybe. I'm not sure if she can get move that one back and still have room for her second stone. But Sandy does have that little bit of a slide down the center and moves it back out. But the ice is curling so nicely here. She will get away with that a little bit. On straight ice, she may have a little bit of trouble with that one. This is really close again. And a pistol of a shot. That's a great shot by PEI. I'm sure glad I'm not playing in this event. These girls are putting on a show here. These skips are playing very, very well. So it'll be an interesting call here for Ellen Johnson. They've been sort of playing the draw game all along. And now they'll have to think about what they want to do with this red one. I think you have to make a play on it. Nope. Nope. See, she might be able to run the red one back. If we can get an overhead shot for a second, we'll just have a look. And yeah, so she could possibly run that red one out, but there is some risk. So that's probably why she's choosing not to do that. So she'll just play the draw down to the red one, basically, and sit in front of it and make it very difficult for PEI to get to. Thanks for that, Scott. Our production guy, producer, director, camera guy, everything guy. One guy. We only have one guy doing all of that. Can you believe it? Doing a great job of it. A great job in Digby a couple weeks ago and a great job here this week. So Ellen Johnson really just trying to get this one down there somewhere in front of the red one to make the two pretty darn hard for the team from PEI. I guess she's even actually called a more guard than a draw. Might not have quite got all the way out, but should be okay. A little red off the red one or a little rub off the red one would probably be a good thing. And she will get that. Yeah. Really probably could have had another foot of ice and just made sure you got out there, but that's a pretty good effort. Takes any chance of a raise away for sure, and there might have been a raise for a multiple score for PEI. And Sandy's not going to play the intern anyway. I thought she'd throw the intern through that hole, but she's going to play the outturn come around, which I don't know. To me, just looks a lot harder. Yeah, she's having a look now at the intern. And we're going to switch sides. A wise decision, I think, for the team for PEI. I think this is an easier shot than the other one was going to be. They're both very, very difficult shots, but I think you have a little more of the forefoot to work with on this turn, just because of where the guards are, basically. This one will curl a lot, though. She's going to have to make sure she gets out to the broom on this one. Intern draw for Skip Sandy Hope. Cornwall Curling Club and PEI. Great facility they have over there as well. So many good facilities for anybody that's even thinking of curling around the province or Atlantic Canada. So this one's coming in pretty good. She's going to make it by. I think she might be just a little bit light. So a great effort, just a hair light for Skip Sandy Hope. PEI does manage to pick up one, though. And they'll take a 3-2 lead after 3 ends of play here at the Canadian Masters. And great hosts here, Wolfville and Kentville Curling Clubs in the town of Wolfville and the town of Kentville as well. Been a marvelous time, and it's nice to see such cooperation amongst a couple of towns here to work together to put on a national championship, whether it's curling or anything else. It's just really nice to see. Certainly want to let everybody know that Bell Alliance certainly is proud to be the official broadcaster for the 2016 Canadian Masters as well, here at both the Kentville and Wolfville Curling Clubs. Kentville Curling Club by the name of Glooscap in Kings County, Nova Scotia. Bell Alliance, there's more to love with FiberOp. Great community partner, Bell Alliance. They do, I don't know how many hours of broadcasting, but if you go on their website and have a look, you'll see they do so many events. It's just unbelievable. I don't know how they can have enough people or equipment or resources or anything, but they just do a heck of a job of bringing all kinds of sports to you and other events as well, but certainly sporting events. So have a look. if you're going to look for that, you can certainly go to bellalliant.ca/TV1 and you'll find all of that stuff out. So the guard goes up for PEI here at fourth end. We're just 15 minutes from the fourth end break. And we're having a great game, 3-2. Two teams that haven't had great records this week, but obviously have saved it for today because they put on a show here today. A lot of good shots in this game. This one's out there a little bit. Gonna have a hard time getting it there. It's light as well. Sweeper's working hard. It's one of those as a sweeper you can't really decide if you want to work hard or not because it's close to not making it. And it's so much more painful if it doesn't get there. But it did get there. So that feels about 100 times better than if it had to stop 2 inches shorter. Thanking the co-chairs, Tony Sterling and Kathy Siddle, for asking me down here to do some games for this event. I appreciate the invite and looking forward to the next 3 days, I guess. It'll be fun. Going to be a lot of good curling games as we move through the next few rounds. This one's a little tight, but probably going to bump that in the house. And it will switch handles. You can tell when it comes on the out turn and hits that rock out front, it will put the in turn on it. Just not quite enough handle to make it stay in behind the guard. But it's in the forefoot, never a bad place. Yukon will look to remove it. Not often they play a takeout, seems like lately, but that one's just too good. Can't leave those rocks in the forefoot. Stick curlers are renowned for throwing good takeouts too, I'll tell you what. Try playing some of the afternoon curlers and curling leagues that are out there now and with a lot of stick curlers, and they can hit. Holy cow, they don't miss anything. So, great shot there. Tried to get the little inside roll. Didn't quite get it, but it is a little bit buried behind the guard. Enough to at least distract you a little bit when you're in the hack. So Debbie Rhodenhizer being asked to win. The girls working hard, and they're going to get it by. No, so close. Great effort. Good sweeping. Didn't quite make it. Everybody catching everybody at the back here, so we don't end up with any kinds of injuries. Everybody's safe and sound. So now Yukon will draw in for sit number 2 and try to set up their 2-ender. Had a chance in the second end to set up a 2, and they eventually made it, and that's what they'll try to do here, try to maybe sneak out a 1-point lead as they go to the break. This one looks a little heavy, but she can use her own as a catcher here. No, it's not that heavy. Needs to curl a little bit so it's not setting up a double. So pretty good shot there. It's actually, they're very close together, but it's not a very easy double. Matter of fact, I'm not so sure the double's there without throwing it as awfully, awfully hard. Debbie asking for a little more ice. Sometimes, when your skip calls the game, calls the ice and everything, but when you're in the hack, if it's just not comfortable, sometimes you just have to ask for that little bit. Some skips will give it to you, some won't, but most skips that work well with their team will certainly give you that little bit extra ice. This is really close to making this double. Wow, that was a super hard shot, and she made that look really easy. That little extra ice was needed. Great shot there by Debbie Rhodenhizer. That was no easy double. And it even stayed for a biter. A little bit of a bonus. So the Yukon will try that again. Try to come around the guard. They can get it around this corner guard. They certainly still have a chance to get there too. A couple corner guards out there to work with rather. Line's fine here, just looks a little warm from up here. Ladies wondering, they're not even sure themselves. They're kind of like, well, it's close, but we don't want to tell you exactly because we're not 100% sure. But they probably could have stayed on this and actually swept it back a little bit and got it behind the guard. Good lesson for those of you out there as a sweeper. Make sure you don't give up too early. Even though it's behind the tee line, I think if it's me, I'm going to try to make sure I sweep that back another foot or two and make that shot just a little bit harder. You can see on the monitor there that it's gettable. Can't see a lot of it, but it curls so well here that it will make it way over there. Nice slide. Perfect slide. Throw it right at the broom. Using a stabilizer. Lots of stabilizers here this week, and that's fine. And this looks pretty good. Great curling shot. Very nicely done. Very, very nicely done by Shelley Ebbett. Third for Team PI. Shelley's actually a New Brunswick native. 4 Canadian Seniors to her credit and a Canadian Masters last year, as we mentioned, and you can see why. Throws a very good stone. So we have another takeout coming here. I'm a little surprised they played a takeout in this one. I thought the Yukon might play some kind of a draw here, but they aren't. They're playing a little bit of a hit and hitting a flop maybe. Just curl the curl a little bit more. I don't think you need to sweep it, and it's pretty good. Pretty good shot. Team's playing quite well here this game in this seeding pool round. Obviously, no problem getting up for the game. They all have everybody still has 2 or 3 games to play, no matter where you're at in this event. So you want to finish strong. PI playing the out-turn hit, a little tighter, but has a little more weight, so she should be fine. And a little bit of a flop. Yukon might be forced to play a draw this time. So it's a little out-turn tap back for Yukon. This one's going to have to curl a little bit, though. If you were a directional sweeper, you'd be directional sweeping this one. Needs to get over there. Maybe just a little bit too heavy. Does she get it? She does, but she rolls out, which, unfortunately, with that little biter there, causes a little bit of a problem. You might end up being forced to take one here. You'd rather not, but wouldn't be the end of the world. 4th end, even ends. If you can tie it up, be tied up after 4 and have the hammer in the even ends. It's not too bad a situation. PEI front end at the other end, just getting ready for this one. They've had to sweep a lot today, so they're just making sure they're ready to go. Sandy Hope playing the in-turn come around. Northern Ontario did steal one more, or one, I guess not one more, against Nova Scotia in the 3rd end on sheet 2. Right beside us here. Nova Scotia still leads, though, 4-2 with hammer, playing the 4th end, so certainly in pretty good shape. It's a great team, that team, Stevie Ogden's team, just a really, really solid team, and they are having to use a spare here this week. Lead stone, or second stone, Jamie Barr. I'm not sure who plays lead and who plays second on that team, but anyway, Jamie's got a bad knee and has been unable to play all week, which is really unfortunate when you make it to a national championship and you're out with an injury. But I believe it's Peter Millen they picked up the spare from maybe the Kentville club, Glooscap club, and done a great. That's it. Yeah, Peter Millen. Yeah, talked to Peter Neely before, the regular player on the team, and he said he's worked out great, played well, and so that part's all good. So that's nice, but always nice to have your full regular team as well. And I don't think Jamie can get back, actually. I think his knee's bad enough that he won't be back at any point, but who knows? I offered to switch knees with him, but I'm not sure mine's much better. So we'll skip Ellen Johnson now. We'll try to hit this and roll behind something. Probably behind the red would be a little easier than rolling. Always easier to roll a foot and a half than to roll 4 feet, but Either one would work pretty well. This one looked a little wide out of her hand. I don't think she's going to make contact with this one. No, just gave it a little bit of a flick there at the end with the stick. And she maybe get a piece. No, not quite. Tough one to miss too for a couple of reasons. One is you still had a good chance of getting two, and it's such a good stone that Sandy guards us up. Sandy Hope from PEI, and it's going to be difficult to score. I don't know that you can make an in-turn draw here because of where the high blue guard on the left side of your picture is. I'm not sure that you can make the in-turn. I think that rock's in the way. So it's going to be a challenge to score a point. Might have to go way out on the out-turn and come around the red. We'll see. She has to make the guard, though. If she doesn't make the guard, that makes it a whole lot easier for the Yukon. This one looks pretty good. Sweeper's just kind of brushing it, not hard, just hard enough to keep it moving. Make sure it gets the line right. Actually, they look like they're going to take this right in. I thought they were actually playing a guard, but maybe they were. I'm not really sure, but certainly too deep. But you're sitting three. Sitting three with the other skip throwing your last rock in the fourth end. That can't be bad. Ellen trying to decide if she's going to draw or play the hit. Seems like she might be somebody that prefers to draw if she can draw, just judging by her draws that she's made this game, and just her takeout in the last shot was just a little bit off. So she's going to opt for the draw. It is not going to be easy to get by that top blue one and still not come on top of the reds. But I think it's there, but it's a really, really difficult draw. Just before we get to the fourth end break, remind everybody to visit bellalliant.ca/TV1 for the webcast and TV schedule for this and all kinds of other events, as well as on-demand content. You can actually go there and watch some past games and past events that have been hosted on Bell TV1. And you can also get information on live events available only to Bell Alliant Fiber Op customers in Atlantic Canada on channels 1 and 401. Bell Alliant, there's more to love with Fiber Op. As Ellen Johnson delivers her last stone here in the fourth end, and a big shot it is in a 3-2 game. Certainly don't want to give up any points here. This one looks pretty good, maybe a little warm, but that would be okay as long as you touch the red one real thin. And I don't know if it's going to be curling too much. And it does, and we ended up with a steal or two for PI. So that was the problem with that shot. Making that draw was really difficult. And PI steals two here in the fourth end to take a 5-2 lead at the break, and we'll be back in a few minutes with the second half of this one. Welcome back. I'm Jim Nixon. I'm here at the Wolfville Curling Club bringing you a game at the Canadian Masters between PEI and Yukon, and it's been a great curling game. PEI breaking it open a little bit the last time with a steal of 2, but even with a 5-2 lead, this one's long from over. The team from the Yukon likes to play with a lot of rocks in play, and this one's going to get close yet, I believe. You know, the skips have been just playing terrific. It's Alan Johnson of Yukon faced with a really difficult shot in the last end, and a draw through a port, and just the way the ice is curling, it was very, very difficult. And sure enough, it just curled up on top of PEI stones at the top of the 8-foot. And unfortunate for her, good weight, but just not enough room to make it work. So PEI probably try to play a little defense this end, coming into the house right off the bat. And the Yukon, just the opposite. They're going to be all offense, I would think. So we'll come around here, the top 8, top 4, probably anywhere right behind the red one's a good shot here. Team from Yukon at 0-5 in this event, and PEI at 1-4, but you'd never know it watching them play here today. They've just played very, very well. As I mentioned earlier, PEI actually lost their previous 3 games to this before getting into the seeding pool just by 2 games by 1 point and 1 game by 2 points, I believe. So obviously been in all their games, other than maybe the very first one. A little bit of nerves here in first game and not quite used to the ice and got caught a little bit in that one. But other than that, they've been right there. Yukon struggled a little bit more than that, but just so maybe a little bit, a little less experience. A little hard to get a lot of competition up north, I think. It's, it's a game's not totally new up there, but there's not a lot of players, and you're trying to get out and play and get better, and it's hard when you don't have a whole lot of people to play. So PEI lead. Arleen Harris, not one of her better ones. She's played a very good game, but she's trying to go after the blue stone in the house and kind of threw a little inside and ended up taking her own rock out. So we mentioned Arleen's been to 7 Canadian senior events and last year's Masters, so very, very experienced players. Has to help when you get to a national competition, I think. No matter what it is, whatever level it is, if you've been there before, just that little bit of comfortability and has got to be a big help. So the Yukon playing the out-turn draw here. Need to make sure this one gets in. I don't think it's going to get there, but girls are working hard trying to get it there. Well, it's a rock they can use later on. Didn't quite get there, but certainly a rock that's kind of a corner guard and one that the Yukon can maybe take advantage here as this end moves along. In the meantime, Debbie Rhodenhizer being asked to remove the Yukon stone. This one's going to be a little outside. And just a little rub, no, so a miss. So all of a sudden, Yukon's got a chance. Interesting call here by Ellen. That red stone at the top of the 12-foot is a problem for Team Yukon, even though they're down 5-2. That rock is one that's difficult to leave sitting there. But Ellen's going to leave it there. She's calling for a rock basically pretty much right on top of the one that's there. Just bite the 12-foot maybe, and plus or minus a foot or two is not a bad thing. Overcurls a little bit and rubs off the blue and goes behind the red. That's probably even better. Might be a good call, actually. Valerie Whalen. Well, has a short delivery, but very solid. Seems to throw it right at the broom all the time. It's good. This one's starting to curl pretty hard. Just a question on speed. A good shot. Worked out perfect. There is a double, but it's tough. Just glancing over here, looks like Steve Ogden just missed a draw for 3, but does pick up 2 and taking solid control in his game against Northern Ontario at 6-2. I think they're just going to the break. Steve's never been one to hurry through games, so he'll have to watch the clock a little bit. Debbie's got a much better effort on this one. No problem with that. Hits it on the nose. Once again, poses a problem for the Yukon. I think you have to move that stone. I don't think you can leave it there, but she's going to. So a very aggressive style of play being implemented by Yukon skip Ellen Johnson. Problem with this, obviously, is if you play this and PI plays a run back, or even if they choose not to play a run back and they just bump one of the red ones up, it's going to be pretty tough to score more than a point. And really, it's not a very difficult little run back for her to remove your rock in the forefoot. This one's short. This one's not going to help too much. It's not too bad, just a little light. Got it out there pretty good, just didn't have the weight to carry it into the house. And as a result, doesn't help the picture very much for the Team Yukon. PI third, Shelley Ebbett. Going after the run back. A little bit of quick yes and a quick whoa. So I'd say that probably means she's going to be in the neighborhood. It's got a curl, though. I don't think she's going to quite get there. Maybe it will. And real close, and just rubs it and moves it back to the back of the forefoot. But it is open now. PI can get at it now. So not a bad shot. It only was about probably an inch from being a perfect shot. So the Yukon will opt to play the intern now. The intern draw through the hole. This is a shot they had a lot of success with a couple of ends ago. Need to make this one. Down 3. You don't want to be wasting too many opportunities here. And this one's good, but for line, it's just a matter of weight. Girls don't think it needs sweeping. Looks a little light from up here. I think they're going to have to go pretty hard. They're going to have to go really hard. Not quite. A little bit of misjudgment there. Or sweepers might just be getting a little tired. It's been a tough day. A lot of sweeping in this one. Ended up in a good place, but it would have been much better with another 5-6 feet of weight. The other seeding pool game is Alberta, I believe, and maybe the Northwest Territories. Alberta with a solid lead in that one. It's a 7-1 after 4 ends. Saw a little bit of the Alberta game last night with Ontario, and that they're a good curling team, and they just lost by a whisker, making the championship round. This one looks pretty good. Shelley Ebbett with a terrific shot. That rock was partially open, but certainly was not wide open, and nice shot by Shelley. So Yukon will now have to make something happen. They really do need to make a little bit of a roll on this one. Little hit and flop behind those guards. If it gets in there, those guards at the top are staggered and be very, very difficult for a PEI to remove it. Looks not bad. Sweeper's going a little bit. This could be really, really good. And a great shot if it stops. And it does. Terrific shot. Team Yukon now all of a sudden out of nowhere with a chance to set up a possible 2. So you never know in curling. It doesn't take much to turn it around. Pretty good shot by the PEI third. Followed up by a terrific shot by the Yukon third. And all of a sudden Yukon's in pretty good shape. There are a lot of guards out there. Sandy Hope from PEI has a chance to take it all away by making one come around. But when you're down 5-2, you do need a miss or two every now and then. And certainly Yukon could use one of those. So the outturn coming in nicely here. This one curls a little more. It's going to be a great shot, but it's not curling real hard, she might slide by, and she does. So now UConn with actually a chance to maybe pick up a 3-ender here by making one good shot on this one. Shot by Sandy Hope, really just probably 2-3 feet heavy, and 3 feet lighter, and UConn's not even going to be able to remove it. So it's really a game that could be going either way here on this shot. UConn has a chance here. Ellen's had great draw weight all day. This one's a little further out, a little bit of a different path for her, but if she can make this, she's going to be in great shape to maybe pick up a 3-ender and tie this one up. As I mentioned earlier, Ellen's in her 4th straight year here at the Canadian Masters. So certainly experienced enough, comfortable enough with the situation. I don't know if she skipped all those years, but I'm thinking she probably did. Ooh, and that one's just looked a little narrow. A little bit of caught a little bit on the stick on that one. You're going to have to work really hard on this. I think she's a little narrow, and I think she's a little light. So I don't know that this one's going to accomplish too much, but the girls are trying to get it there, but she's going to be on the front guard. The only good thing is she will take the out-turn draw away from Sandy Hope now from PEI, and she'll have to play something different. Getting a little messy out front down there. It's going to be a little bit tough for Sandy to make one, and she has to be careful she doesn't make it easier for Team UConn to score too, because right now it's hard. If PEI were to throw one basically right where third Shelley Ebbett's standing, it would be really tough for UConn to get another rock in there. If you play this one and overcurl a little bit and just bump the back red one into the open in the 8-foot, it could be easier for her to score too. So sometimes you got to be a little careful and play the scoreboard a little bit. If you make this great, that's wonderful. You just got to be a little bit careful. Manitoba man and the BC man are playing on the sheet beside us on the other side. And it looks like Manitoba has a 4-2 lead playing the 5th end in that one. Not quite sure the impact on the standings in that game, but I'm guessing both teams are probably still in the hunt. They look like good curling teams to me. So this one's on its way. It's going to be some kind of a raise. And if they can hold the line, it might be a great shot. Not quite. So you can see the problem with that shot is that you've actually probably made it easier for UConn to score 2 than they had a minute ago. You've actually gotten rid of one of the guards. You've given up the possibility even of a takeout if they wanted, and probably given a little more room for the draw, whereas if PI had chosen just to throw a guard out there on the left-hand side somewhere, this shot would have been virtually impossible for UConn. And PI would have maybe been up 2 playing the 6th end with the hammer. Really good situation. Still a good situation for PI, even if Ellen makes this shot. And this is no gimme. You're going way out. You're going out further than you've been all day. You got to figure out the draw weight. Not a lot of room to work with. You need full 8-foot. But I like her chances. She's had just great draw weight, so I just really like the possibility of her making this one. Got to get out to the broom on this one, though. If this one's a little narrow, you're going to be all over the red one. That wouldn't be a good thing. So it's on its way. It's out there. Lots of rotation. That's a good thing on this shot. We'll keep it out there, and you'd like to make sure it stays out there. The girl's going to sweep this one a little bit and then stop and watch it close. All kinds of room. Looks pretty good if it's not heavy. Might be a touch heavy. Is it? No, it's a great shot. Will it stop? And it does. A terrific shot by Ellen Johnson. And UConn picks up 2 here in the 5th end to get within 1 on some great curling by skip Ellen Johnson. 5-4 lead now for Team PEI. And we really are having a good game. It's a seeding division game, and sometimes you kind of think maybe those seeding division games won't be quite as competitive, but they sure are. Everybody, as I said, wants to have as good a record as they can here. You'd like to finish the week strong, and both these teams doing their best to make that happen. Here at the Wolfville Curling Club in the 2016 Canadian Masters. a great week. It started Monday, I think, was the first games, and we end up here on Sunday. The finals on Sunday afternoon. Remind everybody, too, to be sure to join Bell Alliant TV1's own Scott Squires as he chats with Cyril Lunny each Monday morning at 8:40 on the Sideline Scoop. Guys will keep you, Scott and Cyril will keep you up to date on Bell Alliant TV1's local sports coverage. And that's the Sideline Scoop, Monday mornings at 8:40 on CTV Morning Live Atlantic. Scott was in Digby last week covering games. I think he broadcast 21 curling games over the course of the week. That is a lot of games. So good spot for this rock. Great start to the end for Team Yukon. Have a center guard almost right on the center. Not quite, but close enough. And it's only foot and a half in front of the ring, so not able to be removed by Team PEI. So Yukon looks to maybe steal one here and get themselves in a good position for the last two ends. PEI here, really the goal is to score. As long as you score in this end, you're going to be in very good shape coming to the last end. And you have hammer here. You want to keep it a little bit simple, if you can. Girls are sweeping hard on this one. Should get by, I think. Skip Sandy Hope jumps out to help. I've never really thought that helps much. Most skips really aren't going to be anything but a hindrance out there. Sandy looks like she can move the broom pretty good, though. It's just a little light. So the Yukon now, back to the draw game. Kind of have to. They're in a sort of a interesting position here. They won't totally be disappointed if they force PEI to one, but they certainly would like to steal one. If you steal one, you're in a far better spot than if you give up one here. Giving up one makes it tough because you have to get two and then steal one in the last end, and that's always much harder than scoring one with the hammer, which is where they might get if they were able to steal one here. So a little light on the draw. PEI now will play a little tap. Thought you might see, just the way that Sandy called some shots earlier in the game, I actually thought you might see her peel one of those guards out, but I like this call. Or maybe she's not able to yet. We might be one rock away from being able to play that shot. So, yeah, we are. So that's good thing she didn't. So a little tap up being called then. This one's a little bit, maybe a little heavy, but might work out and ends up with a split. Would be pretty good for her. A little heavy. Slides to the back of the 8-foot. I think you'll see the Yukon use that rock and play a freeze now. Yeah, good call by Skip Ellen Johnson. The only part of it I didn't like is the part where you sort of signal, well, maybe you can bump it out. I don't think you want to put that into play. I think you just play this as a straight draw and recognize that even something at the top of the 12-foot, top of the 8-foot's better probably than something being a little heavy. Valerie Whalen with the throw. This looks pretty good. I think she's got exactly what they call for. It's just got to curl a little bit more. And if it can stop, it's going to be a heck of a shot. Just a little tiny bit heavy. And that was the problem with just that option on the weight. You know, she's basically ends up throwing 3 feet heavy and ends up rolling wide open. And, you know, maybe not. It might not have anything to do with it. But maybe if you just don't mention that little tap back option, she ends up throwing it a little bit lighter and ends up perfect freeze. And a much better setup than right now because PEI now hitting to sit 3. Debbie Rhodenhizer. This one's curling a lot. I don't know what Debbie's doing with it a little bit on release there. She slides very, very well, but just giving a little help at the end. Will she get by? And she does. Great sweeping. Well done by sweepers on that one. Harris and Ebbett worked hard and held that. That looked like it was all over the guard when it was about halfway down. So a little bit of jumping around with strategy here for Ellen Johnson. I think that it gets a little confusing when you're going to go back and forth from draws to hits and Get a little consistency. I think if you played the same shot you just played would be perfect. The out-turn come around, even the exact same weight would probably do it. Rather than jumping over here playing a little different shot, a little different weight. But you make it, it's good. And it looks pretty close. Got to curl a little bit, but we know it curls over here. Certainly going to hit it, just a matter of whether or not it's going to stay. Might roll over on the catcher. Pretty good, but only number 2. So a good shot. Good shot. You can only make what's called, and that's what she did. So that was a good shot. Just can't afford to drop 2 here, so you got to be careful. PI now. Going to ask Shelley Ebbett to play the out-turn come around. Good call. She gets it in there in a good position. She should be able to set up a potential 2 or 3-ender here and force UConn into doing something well. Oh, Shelley wasn't throwing even yet. Debbie Rhodenhizer still throwing. Shelley fooled me. She took the gripper off. I thought it was her turn to throw. So this looks a little heavy. I think that Ellen will be able to get this one out the back. Maybe, maybe not. Digging in pretty good now. She's going to have to go hard. Has to get this out. And she does. Once again, debunking my theory on Skip's sweeping abilities. So an interesting call again. This is actually a great shot if you make this one. She's playing the run back on the blue on the red. Won't be a whole lot of weight, but certainly enough weight to get them out. Early release. This one should curl a little. It's going to have to curl a little bit more than that, though. Here it comes. Coming in pretty good now. It's going to be really close. Does she make it? And she does, and rolls behind the guard. Great shot. That was a terrific shot. Good call, as it turns out. I know we're moving back and forth a little on the strategy. This seems to be working for them. They called a couple of tough shots, made them both, and all of a sudden PI's in a little bit of trouble. Certainly wide open. Still have the whole 8 foot to work with. 8 foot to work with, so it's not scary trouble, but a little bit of numbers trouble, I figure you can call it. Just a couple of blue ones in there, and so now Shelley Ebbett delivers playing the same sort of shot, playing basically a double run back. Need to get rid of this one if it's not going to work. Yep. So good shot. Gets rid of that guard. Works way to go. Now it's wide open and an opportunity for PEI to just hit an open shot instead of having to deal with guards. Meantime, UConn will try to come around that corner guard. Corner guards aren't usually great help when you don't have last rock, but you can't really do anything but that at this point. You certainly can't throw a guard up, so you're going to have to work with what's there and try to force PEI into looking at more than one shot, maybe looking at 2 or 3 on her last one. Put a little bit more pressure on her. This one's going over pretty hard. Not a lot of handle on this one, and it's going to come up light. So a bit of a big miss there for UConn. It's you get around that, you sit full 8 foot and put a little more heat on the team from PEI would have been obviously a better result, but PEI still facing 2 here in the 6th end. Shelley throws another good shot. I like the way she throws the stone. Oh. Didn't want them to sweep that one, I don't think. Pretty loud holler. And it rolls out. So, one less rock, but UConn still has basically the same scenario they had a minute ago where they were trying to come around the blue corner guards. Just now there's 2 of them to come around, which actually could be a better thing for her. So the in-turn come around. As we've talked about a number of times, Ellen Johnson's had great draw weight here today. So we'll see if she can make another one. Allen's on her way. Stick curlers are interesting. You will see some stick curlers curl with basically 2 grippers on and pretty much walk out like Ellen does. You will see others that you choose to have the slider, and they basically slide, push themselves out as a slider, which is maybe resembles regular curling a little bit more, and maybe they have a little better sense of feel. But either way works. We have both people. We have people that do it both ways at our club, and certainly both of them seem to be equally good. Far superior to my stick efforts. So an in-turn hit now for Sandy Hope. Still a chance for Sandy to maybe develop a 2-ender here if she could ever roll 2 feet to the left, roll behind those corner guards, and in a position where there's no run back, because right now they're lined up pretty good that if you just rolled a foot, she would just come down, hit the blue one anywhere, and remove yours that's in the house. So needs to roll a little further than that. But there is a chance to maybe still get 2 for PEI, and 2 would be very, very big. Be huge at this point, actually, taking a 3-point lead to the 7th end. Team Nova Scotia did give up a couple in the 5th end in their game against Northern Ontario. No surprise there. 6-4 now. Nova Scotia leading with hammer in the 6th. And usually when you're playing defense, you're kind of okay with the 2-ender. You're just not going to give up any 3-enders. So still in control over there for Nova Scotia. Team Nova Scotia's men's team. Just so this is a pretty good shot on the nose. A little roll. Good shot. And just so you're aware, if you're not, that Mark Cucliffe's Team Nova Scotia team did make it through to the championship round. They needed a little help last night, and they got it. So they did advance to the championship round, and we'll do battle there at some point today, I'm sure. If they're not even, they might even be on the ice this morning. So Alan Johnson now has to make this shot. This is a big, big shot. Alan's had a little bit of trouble with a couple of takeouts, but throw this one good. Just throw it right at the broom with just nice weight. Don't overthrow it because it's a fair bit of ice. And just make this sit 2. And actually, if you can stop right there, it makes PEI, forces PEI to make a decision on whether or not to play the hit or play the draw. If she plays the hit, she will have to roll. So a nose hit here, I think, would be the plan. Just straight on the nose. But make it go away for sure. And then take what you get after that. Girls jumped on this one. I don't know that they need to. I think that they can probably come off it. But they're okay. No, they were right. Just a little less weight than the last one Ellen threw, and they knew it. Swept it perfect, and it's a great shot. Looked like a very simple shot, but it was a shot that you know, you got to think about a little bit because you really need to know whether or not it's better to roll or better to stay. So PEI deciding to play the hit, which would tell me that there is enough room, in fact, for them to get shot rock by hitting this rock on the nose or very close to the nose. Otherwise, you might have seen them draw. But with a 1-point lead, she might play the shot either way and figure, well, if I don't happen to roll and get shot, at least I only give up 1 and I have a hammer playing the 7th. Not a terrible thing. But it certainly would appear to me that they are going to be able to get shot by hitting this even just on the nose. It's on its way. Sandy with that little bit of an inside slide. It might cost her on this one. I'm not sure this rock's going to come up enough. Oh, here it comes. No, I still don't think it's going to come up enough. Does remove it, but does give up the single point. So the Yukon steals 1 here in the 6th end and ties this game up at 5 after 6 ends of play here at the 2016 Kings County Canadian Masters Curling Championships. Brought to you here on Bell Alliant TV1. We're thrilled to do that for you. People watching from across the country, very nice to be able to offer friends and family and fellow curlers across the country the opportunity to see their friends and family here curling at this event. So a big end there by Team Yukon, and as I say, that little bit of an inside-out throw by Sandy. Just caught her on that one. But she did make one of them go away, and she won't be all that unhappy. Certainly lots of experience, understands the game, and won't get very rattled by that for sure. So the Yukon now in a pretty good position. if they can force PEI to 1 point here in the 7th end. And I would expect that they'll go pretty hard to try to make that happen. You might as well. Might as well give yourself the opportunity to win it in the last end. And there's a perfect center guard by Lady Lane Sumner, who has, to her credit, 14 Canadian Curling Championship appearances. Too many even to fit on the page, so they didn't list them. So we'll just tell you that she's been in a lot of events, certainly experienced, and that way a shot like that wouldn't bother her too much. Sometimes you get to that 7th, 8th end is playing lead nowadays, and there's a lot of pressure. It's a different game. I remember when I did turn 50 actually a few years ago and played in seniors, and I played front end after skipping most of my life. I sometimes felt those shots in the 7th, 8th end as lead were way harder than some draws I've had in games in the last end as a skip. So it's a different game and a lot of pressure nowadays. So PEI throws one in the house, and Yukon will look to remove it. Elaine Sumner will try to get this one online. Stick curling and an out turn. Look to remove that rock in the house. It's got it online pretty good. Not a lot of weight. You have to make sure that this one doesn't curl off on you. And it looks pretty good. Sweeper's getting on now and off, and it's absolutely perfect. So nice end for Elaine Sumner here in the 7th end of this game. She can breathe a little bit now. Her job's done and needs to get the broom out and just help everybody else the rest of the end. Do the hard work now. So Sandy switching to the other turn. Quite often that's a matter of preference. It's just a matter of what your team likes to throw and what your individual curler likes to throw. So Arleen might prefer the in turn, and she's asked her to throw that. This one's going to curl really hard. I don't know that they're going to be able to hold this one, but they're working really hard at trying. And I don't quite. Yeah, will she get enough? No, not quite. Not quite. PI second, Debbie Rhodenhizer sweeping that one really was. I'm not sure. She might have been trying to get it to curl, but that would have been the wrong theory. And either way, she just wasn't really in front of the rock. So you need to, as a sweeper, if you're going to work that hard, might as well get something out of it. And you will see that quite often, especially in club play, where people are sweeping and they're not in front of the stone. They're working so hard, and it's just so unfortunate that they're not really doing anything to help the curling shot at all. It's a good exercise program, but that's not why you're here. Do that part of the gym. So we got the intern come around by Yukon. Looks pretty good. Line looks really good. She get it by, sneak it by that guard. Getting close. Whoa, and they do. Great sweeping. Terrific sweeping by the Yukon squad. You can actually see it curl a little bit too far, but still, great shot. Skip Hoprek indicating that even if you hit the guard, it's not a bad shot here. Might even be the better shot, but that's a pretty good rock in the 4-foot, so either one works. Debbie Rhodenhizer is playing the out turn. Well, she's definitely going to be on the guard. It's just a matter of what happens after she hits it. Needs to roll that shooter out. And she will a little bit. So not a bad shot. Would like to have rolled it a little bit further, got it out of the way. Totally out of the way, but does remove the guard. Yukon will try to throw it back up there. They do have PI in a little bit of trouble here now. If they can keep going here and make sure that they force Sandy to make a tough one on her last one. For a point, wouldn't be bad. It'd be nice to steal, but it's always interesting, the long-lasting argument whether or not you'd like to be up one without her, down one with, and I've decided that everybody in the world wants to be one up with rather than one down, or one up without rather than one down with. And if they tell you any different, then I'm not sure they're not lying, because when they go out and play, they sure don't play to give up one in the 7th end. So that guard didn't really do a lot. Did guard a little bit, but Didn't get nearly as much as she would have liked to have gotten out of the guard. If that rock stays a foot to the left, it's perfect. She's not going to be able to get in there at all. Debbie Rhodenhizer, see the extension there. A lot of curlers do use the extension on takeouts particularly. Nothing wrong with that. You just have to be really careful with the direction that you do extend. And I think she's going to be okay here. She'll get rid of that? No. Well, that's a little bit unlucky and lucky. It did stay at the back of the house, so it does give PI and Debbie Rhodenhizer a chance to maybe use that rock eventually. Yukon needs to be a little careful here now because you don't want to set something up for PEI. She's going to choose to remove the rock at the back of the house. That one does surprise me a little bit. But again, not a terrible call by any means. I think it would be nice to stay if I was going to play this. So I might play this really with just a draw weight. But either way, it's on its way and it looks pretty good. Girls just sweeping a little bit. Probably need to stop now, make sure you hit it. And they do. So a good shot, a little bit of a defensive shot, but nothing wrong with that at this point. Your rock is in there guarded pretty well. And you just maybe basically took the 2 possibility away from PEI, and that's all good. If you're cheering for Team Yukon. Territories team did pick up 3 in the 6th end on sheet 1 in the other women's seeding pool game, but still do trail 9-4 after 6 ends of play over there. And the BC men picked up 2 in the 6th end against Manitoba, and they also trail, but by 6-4 without Hammer playing the 7th. So we actually do have by far the best game here. That's certainly the closest game, and that's always nice, and it's been a great game, so can't complain. Can't complain at all. The girls have put on a show for us here today, playing very, very well. Nice shot there to get rid of a couple rocks out front. Replace them with your own, so at least now you do have to run back your rock on the Yukon stone instead of vice versa. Yukon now will look to put a guard back in here. The top of the 12-foot somewhere. Girls watching this one pretty close. I would suggest it probably has enough weight. A little too much weight, I'd say. They really want to take this by. If it's going to be even, take it by. And they don't really work too hard to make that happen. I think if you sweep it even 6 more inches, it's a lot better than it is right there. But they didn't, and it's there, and it's certainly PI has to make it. So that's at least one good thing for Team Yukon. Shelley Ebbett, though, throws such a nice stone. She should be close on this. It's curling pretty hard, though. I think she's going to be on the guard. And she is. So, looking very much like PEI's not going to get a 2 here. If they are going to, Sandy Hope is going to have to create it all on her own. In the meantime, Ellen Johnson will throw a guard. Hard to decide exactly where to throw that guard on this shot. I think you basically just guard the crotch area between the 2 blue ones. Almost guard that hole, and guard it tight. Throw it in there close to the top of the 12-foot, and I'm guessing the Sandy will probably make a run at some kind of a double here. Maybe try to get out of this end with a blank end, but right now she's in a little bit of trouble. No question. Ellen Johnson with the intern. This one's got a little too much weight, I think, for what they call. But, if it ended up in the 8-foot right in front of those 2 rocks, it wouldn't be very bad, actually. It might be better than a guard. That's a great shot. I think that's perfect, if you ask me. A couple curling clubs hosting national events in the next year. Certainly Yarmouth is hosting the Canadian Mixed, and probably November or December of this year. I'm not exactly sure. I'll check that out. And the Blue Nose Curling Club in New Glasgow, where I'm from, is hosting the Canadian Stick Curling Championships in April of 2017. So lots of national curling coming still to the province. We just had the Canadian Seniors in Digby, and we had the Canadian Juniors in Liverpool just last year. So I don't know if we're a hotbed of curling yet, but we certainly are trying to be. And a lot of good volunteers, a lot of good people. Everybody always talks about the people in the East being great people and loving to come down here, and that's kind of what it's all about. Trying to grow the game and create a whole situation down here for people to come and visit at whatever time of year. So Sandy Hope now is going to play, and this is probably a good call. You know, it's a lot of people might play a run back, but if you don't happen to get rid of two, then you really haven't improved the situation. So Sandy's going to throw much better slide there by Sandy. She's going to play the intern, like come around tap shot on the one in the button, just from the top of the button. Try to hang around, but I think it's going to curl too much and be on the front blue and not really do too much, really, for the Team PEI. Probably actually hurt. So a little bit of a guard here by Yukon, and PEI is going to be in a world of hurt. Going to have to make something very, very good. It might be a run back on the red, which was certainly there. Run back double, but nobody really wants to be throwing a run back double, looking at a possibility of a 3 or 4 ender. But a big shot by Ellen. It's, you know, ideally you'd be number 4 when you're done here. If you could put this rock basically on the center line, biting the top of the 8 foot, I think would be a great spot. Reminder, once again, we have curling going on all day at the Glooscap Club in Kentville. At 2 draws at 2 and 7 as we start into the championship round. And then back here in Wolfville at 7 o'clock tonight, there will be action here. Not sure of the games. You can go online at curling.ca or through the Nova Scotia Curling Association site, I'm sure, and find it, or just Google 2016 Canadian Masters and you'll find it that way. This one just curling a little too much. They would like to get a little rub off the red, and they do. And it's perfect, I'd say. Just another couple of inches, it would have been even more perfect if there's such a thing. So Sandy Hope in trouble, calling a timeout. I don't know if this is a timeout to discuss the best options or just a timeout to give yourself some time to get your head around what you have to do here. So the teams do get 2 timeouts, 2 90-second timeouts per game, and then they get an additional timeout if it goes an extra end. 90 seconds from the time you call it, really, and the officials will give you a little tiny bit of time to get on your way, but that's all it is. So you have to hustle a little bit. And usually what happens here is the timeout, the team that calls a timeout has their discussion with their coach, fifth player, whatever it is, at the end where the rocks are, and the other team goes to the opposite end. But in this case, Team PEI is kind of scattered. They do have a coach with them, I believe. Sandy Hope's, is it Sandy's husband? Maybe Sandy's husband. Is it? Yeah, Sandy's husband coaches the team, so she's come down the sheet to discuss with him what to do, and it's a tough call. I think that you can only do 2 things. You basically had to play the intern draw around that one that Yukon just put at the top of the 12-foot. Yeah, great shot there. You can see you can play the intern draw, come right around there, and certainly get shot rock. And giving up one would not be a bad thing at all. Or you can try to run the red one back. The risk with that, if you throw any kind of weight at all, is that if you don't make contact on the way by, all of a sudden 2 might become 4. So, or 1 or 3 might become 4. Anyway, we'll see what she does. I'm expecting to see her play the draw. Actually, I think you'll see her take ice at the edge of the 8 foot, try to draw in, and even if you get full 4 foot, you cut her down to 1. That's not a bad thing. The discussion's over. Both teams with all kinds of time left. They really aren't in any time crunch, so timeout really was just to be able to allow your coach or your fifth player, whomever it is, to access and have a chat with you. So they've done that. And sure enough, they've settled on the draw. Tough draw for a point. pretty tough draw to just hold them to a point. And on sheet 2, Ogden picked up 1 to still lead over there by a 7-4 count, playing the 7th end against Northern Ontario without hammer, so the game's certainly still in well, not jeopardy, still in certainly close enough game to both teams could win that one. And the other game has probably mathematically eliminated the territories in their game, but they're still playing. Down 12-4. I guess they figure there's nobody else going to be playing here this afternoon, so let's just finish this one off. Get a little more practice in. Both teams must be willing to be. So Sandy Hope's draw is on the way as it crosses the hog line. It's not a bad-looking shot, but it does look a little heavy. Sweeper's backing off, and yes, she will slide through, and an absolutely huge steal of 3 here for Team Yukon. And all of a sudden, they might have gone 5-2 deficit after the 4th end break. They must have had some magic conversation at the break, or they had some great food, because since then they've scored 2, stole 1, and now stolen 3, and now have an 8-4 lead, playing the last end of this game. Yukon looking to break their winless streak, and they are certainly in contention to do that in this one. But you got to bear down. 3's not an impossible end for sure. So you got to make sure you're ready to play here. You don't throw rocks and leave rocks in places they shouldn't be. In this case, that would mean in front of the circles. And Ellen Johnson just tells her lead, Elaine Sumner, let's throw it in the house. Kind of indicated the back of the forefoot. I don't think that's really where she wants it. You certainly wouldn't want to be behind the tee line by choice here. If you had the luxury of being able to take the rock down exactly where you want, I think you'd put it at the top of the button and not the back of the button. So we shall see. They need to get it in, first of all. Really don't want to guard. Really, really don't want to guard. But unfortunately, they've got a guard. Might be getting a little bit slow down the center. Haven't timed anything today. I've just been a little lazy here. Edie did that for me all last night. I didn't have to do any of it, so too late to start now. We're just going to go with what we got. So PEI now should be throwing up a corner guard. As I say, the Yukon's rock, if you said, well, where do we not want to put it, that would have been where it would be, unfortunately. So this one's got to curl a little bit. Girls are sweeping, but not quite sure why. I just kind of used a curl. So that one didn't need any help, really, and would have been a little better just to let it go. But anyway, it's a rock that they can use, just a little off the center line, not in a bad spot. Ellen Johnson says, okay, I guess we're into it. Let's go. So she's going to play the raise. Ask Elaine to tap that blue one up. The other thing you could do here, actually, you could peel your own right out. Just go ahead and call the peel yours out, and keep this end a little bit simpler. You don't want this end getting too complicated. Unless you're Avril Lavigne and can make millions of dollars from complicated situations. So, not a bad shot, but I'll tell you, if you're PEI, you can't be too unhappy. You've got a couple of guards to work with. Just going to play a little hit and roll. I don't know that I like that. I think I'd play something with some kind of draw weight here. Can't afford to roll out. It's on its way. Lead Arleen Harris, who's been pretty steady, so maybe that's why they've played this shot. Is curling. Got to get by the guard. Unfortunately, it's going to go by the other one, and that's really why you don't play that takeout, I think. You really need to play some kind of draw there. You can accomplish the same thing on that shot by just throwing draw weight, really, and coming down right around the blue or rubbing the blue and rolling in. Either of those work pretty well. Down 3, playing a takeout is just not the best of plans, I don't think, for me anyway. But the Yukon going to stay with it. Going to play all offense here. More power to them. That's kind of got them where they are, and they're going to stay with it. It's just cleaning this one. I'm not sure it's going to do exactly what they wanted, but maybe, yep, looks pretty good. Can they get it by that top one? If they can get it by, she's got a great shot. And they will. Wow, terrific eyesight. Skip Johnson. That one came by the guard only by, well, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or so. Probably about 2 centimeters for those under the age of 60. But for everybody else, we'll stay with the inches. So Sandy Hope now will try this again. A little different situation now with the other blue one, and you probably do need to throw enough weight to move it. You just don't want to go at this with a whole lot of weight. You really need your shooter to stay around, and preferably somewhere behind something here. There's a little more guard action out there than the Yukon should want to have. And this one's on its way. Girls are sweeping hard. You don't want to hit that guard, and it's going to be close, but I think she might get by. She does. A little bit thin. Well, that's a good shot. To hit a little thicker, he couldn't really afford to hit it thinner because it would have been too risky and too much chance of hitting the guard. So, pretty darn good shot. If it had rolled about a foot less, it would have been perfect. So the Yukon now will try to remove this one. It's Valerie Whalen to play the out-turn takeout, and if you can ever make this one and roll a foot inside, then you're going to be in pretty darn good shape here with a 3-point lead. One thing you don't really want to do is hit this too far on the outside and run into your blue one, but threw it pretty good. Just real enough. Starting to come up a little now, not real heavy, so she should be okay, I think. Hard to tell on the angle, and no, it does jam it, so a little mini disaster there for Team Yukon. It's so interesting to see sometimes like where you miss and where you can't miss depending on your situation in the game. That was one there that the Yukon doesn't want to miss that shot wide. I mean, you don't want to miss it at all. And it's a fairly much, basically an open takeout, so it's hard to think about missing shots. But if you ever miss that shot, you want to miss it on the inside just because you don't want that to happen. And if you ever overcurled and hit a guard, that's not even a bad thing. So Debbie Rhodenhizer now being asked to come around the red one, and obviously got outside, but it will come. If you had that high side sweeper working this one, you might even get a little more curl than this. Anyway, it's a good shot. Perfect weight. Absolutely perfect weight. Just didn't curl quite enough. So Yukon now, big shot here. Really do need to make this one. It's on its way. Tell Ev's a little higher in her delivery. Doesn't quite get down as far as some of the curlers, but has it figured out. I think they need to stay on this. I'm going to let this curl up, but I think PI could be sitting 3 when this one stops. No, not quite. Well, it sure didn't help, but it was almost really bad. So PI all of a sudden looking like a 3's a definite possibility, and a 4 is not out of the picture yet. Yukon just thrown a couple of loose shots here the last 2 or 3 shots. On shots that are fairly basic, and they've been making all day. So Shelley Ebbett now, who's had a pretty good game, playing the out-turn come-around. I think she's a little light. Might get away with it. Oh, unlucky. Unfortunate for PEI. Really just, line was fine to make the tap. Just needed a couple more feet of weight. So Ellen now is going to ask for a raise. Tough shot. I think the in-turn come-around right around that blue one's got to be easier. But she says, no, we're going to play the in-turn tap, and if you can make it, it's a terrific shot, but that's a hard shot, I'll tell you that. It's on its way. It's got to curl. Has to curl probably another 1.5 feet yet. She's probably going to go by it, but it's going to be too heavy to stay. So, and it's not getting any better for Team Yukon. Like they were kind of in total control of this end for this game. And we have another timeout. PI calls their second timeout. I can understand it on this one. It's a little tough now to figure out, well, what should we do? I think you have only 2 options, so it's not like there's a million options. You basically have to play the out-turn draw or the in-turn draw. It's just a matter which one you like. They've been playing that out-turn side. A little tap on that top one wouldn't be bad. But the in-turn come-around is probably where Yukon's going to have to go on their next shot. It's probably what they should have did on that shot, to be honest, but they don't really have a lot of choice, I don't think, but to play it on their next one. So I think the PI will ultimately decide to go in-turn draw. In-turn draw around the blue one, top of the 4-foot. And Yukon is going to be in big, big trouble. Timeout over, and couldn't really see what they decided on here, but we'll find out pretty quick. So as we expected, they are going to play the in-turn draw here. Anything around that guard of the tee line is a very good shot, and really is going to create serious problems for the team from Yukon. I thought she might have been a little narrow on this, but Shelley's been throwing it right at the broom all day, so I suspect that was just an illusion. Girls are working pretty hard, though. You'd like to get it if you're not perfect here. You really don't want to move that blue one. Well, just a little light. Everybody coming up a little light here in the last part of the game, so I'm thinking that we are losing a little bit of the speed, but not so much that these guys shouldn't be able to adjust to it, to be honest. If it is, it's not radically heavy. So Ellen Johnson going to go back to this out turn. She can't see a whole lot of it, but if she can get rid of one of the red ones, she does maybe create a situation where she won't give up 4 at least, because that possibility definitely exists right now. Tough shot, though. The in-turn draw through that port is looking pretty good to me. It's a bit scary, but we've seen it. We just saw the other team try to play it and almost make it. So I don't know. And if you ever make it, you might win the game with it. And they are going to switch sides. After a discussion, they've made a team decision to play the in-turn draw. You can tell that the third, or the broom holder here, Elaine Sumner, she actually plays lead. Just a little confused maybe with the shot call. Getting it figured out. Trying to get the broom moved out to where. And now they're moving it again a little bit. Can't hear them, so they must be probably talking about some other shots that they played and where the broom was, and this was the ice we needed for that, and et cetera, et cetera. So, as we mentioned a number of times, has had great draw weight today. So it would not surprise me at all if she put this one right on the pin. And if she does, she will probably take this end away from Team PEI. Because I don't know how they get it out. Anyway, doesn't waste a lot of time. Looked a little bit heavy. Maybe she's playing the raise. I'm not sure, but it sure looked like a pretty good extension there. Maybe she thought it was getting a little heavy as well. It's going to find the hole, I think, but pretty sure it's going to be through the house. Sure enough. So a little bit of a surprise there. Ellen's had great draw weight, and I'm not 100% sure if everybody was on board with the shot call there. I assume it was just a straight draw. Ellen's suggesting something here to her. Maybe he could have rubbed the red one, but that wasn't going to happen. There was no chance of that. Better chance of hitting the blue one than hitting the red one. At the end of the day, I think she just threw it too hard. That can happen. So in our game with Team Nova Scotia men's team, Stevie has managed to hold Northern Ontario to 1 in the 7th, so he has a 2-point lead, playing the last hand with the hammer. Should be able to hold on and pull that one out, make the championship round, but we shall see. Steve's team the place. Both Peter and Jamie play, or I think are from the Truro area. Peter for sure. I'm sure Jamie as well. And Jamie Barr not playing today, as we mentioned. Instead, they have Peter Millen as a spare, super spare, playing the whole bonspiel, actually. And playing very well, from what I hear. And Brad's more probably from the city area, and Steve certainly has been a Mayflower curler for pretty much his whole career. Played with Steve first year in my senior career, and he's just a really good player. Hasn't lost much over the years. Has terrific draw weight. So Sandy Hope with a shot on the way and playing the intern come around through that port, I suspect, although they are sweeping it, so they might be thinking of a split or a tap up maybe. Ever split this would be a pretty good shot. And that's a pretty good shot by itself. Nice shot. Don't know exactly if that was a call, but certainly the way they swept it, rather, that would sort of indicate they were playing the tap, not playing the draw, which I thought they might be playing the straight draw. Anyway, a very, very good shot. And PI sits 3 now with UConn 1 rock to come here in the last end and a 3-point lead. Certainly not the way that Ellen Johnson would have drawn this end up in her mind. You're hoping when you're up 3 playing the last end that your shots are going to be fairly basic and you're going to hold the other team to 1 or 2 and shake hands and walk away with a victory. Instead, if she doesn't make this shot, she will lose this game. So tough shot, tough situation for Ellen Johnson. But a makeable shot. That's the one good thing about it. It's relatively open. Play the intern takeout, try to hit it right on the nose and stay there and force Sandy to make probably the same shot she just played, raising the red one up. But those are never gimmies. Just to get this one on target, first of all, and remove that red stone. It's out of her hand. Girls are on it very, very early. Definitely can't curl up and hit the red one. Going to have to go hard. Looks pretty good if they can hold it. Looks real good if they can hold it, but can they get it by? And I think they will. And maybe even a little inside roll. Wow, great shot by Skip Ellen Johnson here in the last end to maybe save the day. There is a chance for 4, though, for PEI. They haven't looked at it yet, but there is a chance to play the straight back raise on the red one and score 4. But they're not even going to look at that, I guess. Hard shot, but chance for a win. So you could always take it. They have no timeouts left, and they're looking at the clock just to check the time. They have all kinds of time. Not enough for like a cup of tea and a biscuit. Enough for a couple of minutes to talk about it. But they're not going to spend much time. They're going to go to the other end, play the outturn draw for 3, and try to tie this up and force an extra end. Probably the safer call, really, for these teams. I don't think you'd see too many men's teams at the big league level, or maybe even ladies teams at the big league level, not take a run at making the run back for 4 and win the game right here. So the chances of stealing are probably far less than than what we would have in this event. So, because there's usually lots of rocks in play. And let's face it, throwing doubles and triples and double peels and all that's just hard to do. So Sandy going to play the outturn draw. Hasn't got a whole heck of a lot of ice, but she does need to get 8 foot, full 8 foot, better than full 8 foot actually to score her 3. So they're going to have to come fairly tight to these guards. Well, calling for help. Not a good sign, but I think she's going to be okay for Wade. Girls working hard on it. They've got to go. Got to go. I don't think it's going to work. Wow, absolutely perfect weight, but it needed to curl about 2 more inches, I believe. We'll wait and make sure that they're not going to measure anything, but I think it looks like 2 for PEI. And it is. So PEI comes up 1 point short here in the last end. Just give him 1 more second, make sure again. She's pointing, PEI third, pointing to the Bluestone. Yep. And sure enough, PEI scores 2, but UConn gets their first win this week with a great game. Deserved. Played very well. Skip Ellen Johnson in particular, saving the day a number of times. UConn with a 8-7 victory over Team PEI. So I thank everybody for taking this game in. I'm Jim Nix. We will be back at 2 o'clock from the Glooscap Curling Club and look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day. Have a good weekend.